Welcome to this explainer on mastering ISO 14064-1. This is proudly sponsored by QME, Quality Middle East, and we're going to break this whole thing down so it makes perfect business sense.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover the global climate mandate. Second, why measure emissions. Third, understanding your carbon footprint. Fourth, the mitigation hierarchy. Fifth, the ISO 14064-1 core principles. And finally, how to take action with QME.
Section 1. The Global Climate Mandate. You know, corporate sustainability really isn't just some isolated, nice-to-have choice anymore. It's being driven by massive, compounding global treaties like the Paris Agreement and COP28 and COP29. I mean, way back in 1997, the Kyoto Protocol first set these international goals to stabilize greenhouse gases, right? And today, the regulatory pressure to hit net zero by 2050 is literally compounding decade by decade. But if those global treaties feel, a bit abstract, let's ground this in a shocking local reality: 6 degrees Celsius. According to climate projections, this is the expected average temperature rise in Egypt by the end of the century, so between 2081 and 2100 if we stay on a high-emission scenario. And honestly, even in a low-emission scenario, we're still looking at a 2.5-degree jump. Think about what that actually means for agriculture, for cooling costs, for vital infrastructure. This isn't just dry scientific data. It is a literal burning platform, and it demands decisive action right now.
Section 2. Why measure your emissions? So let's look at the micro implications for your organization. What is the undeniable business case for rigorously measuring your greenhouse gases? Well, while sustainability is fundamentally about protecting our planet, there are 4 major business pillars at play here. First up is climate impact, because by measuring, you're actively doing your part to combat global warming. Second is regulatory compliance. This one is huge. It keeps your business safely ahead of strict carbon regulations and those really costly penalties. Third is corporate responsibility, simply because today's investors and customers demand radical transparency. And fourth, cost savings. This is the absolute game changer. Identifying exactly where your emissions come from means identifying exactly where you're wasting energy. Less emissions almost always equal less overhead, period.
Section 3. Understanding your carbon footprint. Now, before you can calculate a single number, you kind of have to play data-driven detective. You need to map out your entire value chain to create a comprehensive greenhouse gas inventory. So the crucial point here is understanding exactly what makes up this footprint. At its core, it's the comprehensive sum of your organization's direct and indirect emissions. ISO 14064-1 actually categorizes this really clearly for us. You have Category 1, which are your direct emissions. These are the sources your company physically owns or controls. Think of the fuel being burned right in your factory boilers. And then you have Categories 2 through 6. These are your indirect emissions. You don't own these sources, but your business activities cause them. Think of the electricity you're buying off the grid, or maybe the trucks a third party uses to deliver your products.
Okay, so what exactly are we measuring here? Well, we're looking at the 7 specific greenhouse gases listed in the Kyoto Protocol that actually make up this footprint. We're talking about carbon dioxide, or CO2, methane, CH4, nitrous oxide, N2O, hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs, perfluorocarbons, PFCs, sulfur hexafluoride, SF6, and nitrogen trifluoride, NF3. That exact cocktail of gases, that is exactly what your organization needs to account for. Section 4. The mitigation hierarchy. Now that we've defined the problem and the specific gases we're dealing with, let's talk about the strategy you'll use to handle it. Think of this sequential 4-step hierarchy as your actionable corporate playbook. Step 1 is avoid. Can you change a business process entirely to prevent the emissions from happening in the first place? Step 2 is reduce. Can you improve your energy efficiency to lower those emissions you simply cannot avoid? Step 3 is offset. For those remaining emissions, can you purchase high-quality carbon credits to balance them out? And finally, step 4 is remove. This means investing in projects like direct air capture or natural sinks that physically pull greenhouse gases right out of the atmosphere. Following this playbook turns theoretical sustainability into a highly practical pathway toward net zero. Section 5. ISO 14064-1 Core Principles. To actually track those gases accurately and apply that mitigation hierarchy we just talked about, you need a proven methodology. And this brilliantly illustrates what ISO 14064-1 is all about. Think of it exactly like a rigorous corporate expense report. Seriously,
Just like balancing a department budget, your carbon footprint has to follow 5 strict rules. First, relevance. You focus only on emissions that significantly impact your footprint. Second, completeness. Don't just conveniently leave any major emission sources out. Third, consistency. You have to use the exact same calculation methods every single year so you can honestly track your progress. Fourth, accuracy. You need to rely on real, reliable data, not just wild guesses. And finally, transparency. You must clearly show your work and your references so auditors and the public can actually trust it. You wouldn't fake a company expense report, right? Well, your carbon footprint requires that exact same level of rigor.
Section 6. Take action with QME. Here's the bottom line. Having theoretical knowledge alone is not going to reduce your carbon footprint. You can't just read an article about emissions and expect results. Executing this properly and building a genuinely verifiable inventory requires structured professional expertise. So, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. Are you ready to turn carbon reporting from a stressful regulatory burden into your organization's greatest competitive advantage? Because the global mandate is absolutely clear, and the time to act is right now. We explicitly urge leadership teams to master this standard by reaching out to QME. Contact QME to join our training and calculate your organization's exact footprint. You can reach the team by phone at 0100-919-0780, via email at qme@qme-eg.com, or learn a whole lot more on the website at www.qme-eg.com. Thank you so much for joining me on the Six Planner today. Keep learning, keep taking action, and we'll catch you next time.